Health and fitness requires more than just the physical work. It starts with the work you put in to grow your mind. Welcome to the Mind Gains podcast, where we discuss what it takes mentally to see results physically. I'm your host, Jess. Let's get started. Another happy Monday to everyone listening. And if you're listening to this episode the day it comes out, happy December 2nd. I am so ready for this month. I am so excited, so pumped that it's Christmas time, and I cannot wait to see what the last month of 2024 has in store. So, starting off today's episode with just a reminder to soak in every day, every moment, because we all know how fast it goes. And it's going to be January 1st in no time. That really has nothing to do with the topic of this episode, but I just thought it would be a nice reminder for everyone, myself included. But getting into today's episode, I want to talk a little bit more about dieting phases or cutting phases. And I wanted to call this episode, You Have to Earn the Right to Diet. Because honestly, it's true. It's very, very true. And if you decide to do a cutting phase when you really probably shouldn't be, you're going to probably end up doing more harm than good. So I think it's really important that every single one of us knows how to approach this. And when I'm referring to dieting, I don't mean like a crash diet like most of us probably think of when we hear that word. I don't mean cutting out all sweets and sugars and only drinking one kale smoothie a day and then fasting for 48 hours each week. That's not what I'm talking about. When I say that you have to earn the right to diet, I mean that you have to earn the right to go into a cutting phase, aka pulling down your calorie intake slightly in order to see sustainable fat loss. So, just kind of a preface to this episode so you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say diet. So, let's just get into it. Typically, when most people are starting their health and fitness journey, a big goal is fat loss, right? Like 9 times out of 10, it's usually one of our top priorities, whether that's 10 pounds or 50 pounds. So this is very, very common. And it's also very common that we think that we can just jump straight into that fat loss phase. Start seeing the pounds come off and the number on the scale decrease immediately. But typically, this should not be the case. I say typically because sometimes you can go straight into seeing those kinds of results, but not usually. And I'm also speaking more in terms of females because I, as a health and fitness coach, work exclusively with women. So the situations I'm talking about today are being approached from my firsthand experience of what I have gone through and what I see most of the women I work with go through as well. That's not to say that all of this cannot also apply to men, but just as kind of a disclaimer, I don't work with men, so I don't have that experience of seeing what category they're typically falling into. When most people start a health and fitness journey, they usually want to see fat loss results, and they obviously want to start seeing those results immediately, right? I think that's what we all want. Being able to instantly start that process right off the bat so that we can start seeing the results we want. But most people are also usually undereating when they start. And I can pretty confidently say that most people listening to this right now have probably found themselves in this boat. Maybe you can even see it for yourself, that you are eating less than you ever have, yet you still cannot lose the weight. Maybe you're even gaining the weight and you just don't understand how that could be possible because you are barely eating anything ever. And the reason for this is because, yeah, severely undereating and starving yourself works for a small period of time, but it's going to stop working pretty quickly. And once you've reached that point, you're kind of screwed because you're already on the verge of starving your body. Like, how could you possibly eat even less to keep seeing results? And then how the heck do you even maintain those results? The answer is you don't. That's why crash diets do not work. And no one give me that, I was eating 800 calories a day and that did work for me. I lost 30 pounds doing it. If you weren't able to keep up with those protocols, or maintain your weight loss, and now you're looking for something else to quote unquote work for you, then it didn't work for you. It doesn't matter if you lost those 30 pounds if you just gained it right back, now does it? If you have to look for something else, some other diet, some other program or protocol to try out now, then the one you were doing before did not work for you, regardless of whatever temporary results you were able to achieve. So then how the heck do you get to a point of being able to lose fat in a healthy and in a sustainable way? By prioritizing your internal health first, by making sure that your metabolic health, where your metabolism is at with how it's functioning, is in the right spot before jumping into a dieting phase, aka a cutting phase. If you are someone who eats 1,300 calories a day right now, but you want to lose some body fat, I'm sorry to say, but you cannot just go straight into a cut if you are only eating 1,300 calories a day. That is not enough for anyone. And I don't care if your hunger cues are telling you that that's a good amount of food for you, it's not. You need to be eating more. I am specifically speaking to the ladies right now because I know everyone thinks it's like cute to barely eat anything and just not be hungry. It's not. That is a major red flag, a warning sign that your body is not functioning properly. Do not ignore this and just accept it as normal. It's very common, it's not normal. Those are two different things. And if you've been slowly starving yourself for months or even years, your body is going to stop sending you hunger cues because it knows you're not going to feed it. So if you don't feel hungry, but you're only eating 1,300 calories a day or less, it's because your hunger cues aren't cueing. They're not signaling like they should be. And in case you don't know, this is not a good thing. Having hunger cues is a flex. You should be having them. And if you're not, I promise over time of you slowly adding more food in, more calories in, and being consistent with your food intake every day, you will start getting those hunger cues back because your body starts learning that it can trust you to give it what it needs when it's asking you for something. When you ignore your body's hunger cues for years because you think you need to just keep eating less and less to see results and be the skinniest version of yourself, your body says, all right, cool. I know I can't trust you anymore. I know that it does not matter that I'm asking you to feed me. You're not going to feed me. I'm not going to ask anymore because what's the point? But the cool thing is that when you do start listening to it and giving it what it wants and what it needs, aka fuel, it learns that you have started listening and it will start speaking up again and letting you know when it needs more food. So, all of that to say that 1,300 calories isn't enough for anyone, regardless of whether you feel like you're starving at that intake or you're never hungry at that intake. And if you were to just jump straight into a cut, even though you're severely under eating as is and your hormones are not working properly at all and you're not getting those hunger cues, and then you decide to bring your intake down even more to like 1,000 calories a day, you are literally starving your body. You are not giving it the calories and the nutrients it needs. And while, yes, you will probably see results from doing that for a time because you are now in a calorie deficit, after 2, 3, maybe 4 months, your body will get wise to the fact that you're now giving it even less food than you already were. And now your metabolism will downregulate and you will stop being able to see results at that 1,000 calorie intake. So now, if you want to keep seeing results, now you need to bring your intake down to maybe 800 or even 700 calories a day or less. You cannot just keep giving your body less and less food and expect everything to just be okay. It does not work that way. You will run your body and your metabolism into the ground. That's like taking your car for a road trip and Instead of giving it a full tank of gas every time you stop at the gas station, you just continue to put less and less gas in it every time you stop. But you expect it to be able to keep driving just as far or even farther than it did when you filled the tank up all the way. Every single one of us knows that that will not work, and your body works the same exact way. I do not know why we keep expecting it to respond well when we just keep giving it less and less and less. And I can pretty confidently say that you probably would not get behind the wheel of your car and just drive it off a cliff or into a ditch. At least I hope you wouldn't. So then, why are you doing that to your body? Honestly, if you were going to do either one of those options, I would rather you pick running your car into the ground over your body. You can always buy another car, but you get one vessel on this earth. So if you wouldn't run your car into the ground, please don't do it with your body either. So then what do you do? If you're someone who is not eating enough already as is, but you have some excess body fat you'd like to lose, what do you do about that? Spend time fixing your metabolic health before jumping into a cut. Reverse diet your way up, nice and slow, and bring your daily intake up to a nice, healthy number. Spend a little bit of time there, 3 to 6 weeks at that intake, and get your body nice and primed for a fat loss phase, and then go into your cut. This is the way it has to be done if you want healthy, sustainable results. And I will never recommend to anyone or program for anyone that I ever work with to start with a cut right away if their internal health is not where it needs to be. I would be doing a disservice to them, and you would be doing a disservice to yourself and to your results if you rush the process and start off with a cut when you have zero business doing so. And I know this is difficult to hear because, like I said at the start, we all want results as quickly as possible, right? But you have to earn the right to diet. If you have not taken care of internal health and it's been something you have neglected leading up to this point, it's okay, but you are not ready for fat loss. Your body is not ready for it, and you will not end up in nearly as good of a position you would be in if you went about this process the correct way and made sure your metabolic health is firing on all cylinders first. I cannot stress how important this is. Spending even just 1 to 3 months, depending on where your starting point is at with this process, spending just a little bit of time at the beginning to ensure your internal health is where it needs to be will set you up for success once you do get to your cut. But if you neglect this and decide to cut your intake down even further when you're already under eating, the results you do get will not be sustainable, and you will just be continuing that process of running your body into the ground. And now you're set up in an even worse spot the next time you want to give it a go. Like the longer you put this process off, the worse of a position you're going to be in. And the longer it will take then in the future to get your metabolic health in check. So do not neglect this. It's not worth it. Your internal health is a bigger priority than your physique goals. Sorry, it just is. I know you want to reach your physique goals quickly, but nothing is worth compromising your health. And if you just spend a little bit of time making your health the biggest priority, your body will thank you by giving you the sustainable results you want once you do get to your cut. You just have to trust the process. I wanted to give some examples of when is not the right time to be going into a dieting phase, in case you're still a little unsure of whether or not this all applies to you. So you should not be going into a cut if you have a history of chronic dieting. Maybe you've spent the last 3, 4, 5 years even jumping from diet to diet, and now you've decided you're going to start tracking macros and put yourself into a calorie deficit. Absolutely not. Give your body a bit of a break because it has no idea what the heck is going on right now. And it really needs some time to get everything in check internally prior to starting fat loss. You should not be going into a cut if you are under eating. Like I said before, you can't just continue to cut down on your food intake if you're already not eating enough as is. I would say when it comes to this, I am probably a bit biased because I like a decently high intake. That's just my personal preference. I have a very large appetite and I love to eat, and I love having a ton of food and a very high caloric intake. So, for myself personally, I will not go into a cutting phase if my current intake that I'm maintaining at is any lower than 2,000 calories a day. And this is like a bare minimum, lowest of the low that I want to see for myself. Really, I'd like to be a few hundred calories higher than that before a cut. I want my cutting number to be no less than 2,000 calories a day, meaning I'm losing fat while eating 2,000 calories a day. But again, that's just me. I would say in general, really aim to have your intake no lower than like 17, 1800 before going into a cut as a female. Again, no lower than. I would love it if intake was higher than that. But as long as metabolic health is taken care of, you have your hunger and fullness cues, and you feel great at 1800 calories a day, you feel pretty satiated throughout the day, you should be fine to go into a cut. But again, it's really just going to come down to you listening to your body, what it needs from you, your hunger and fullness cues, how well you're satiated throughout the day, all of that. You should not be going into a cut if you are in a phase of your life of just life happening, like major life happening. And what I mean by this is if you are, I don't know, you're in the middle of a move to a different country, and you have a bunch of family drama going on, and your boyfriend just broke up with you, and you are getting your master's degree, and you're working your full-time job during the day, and then you're working nights, and then you're trying to find time to fit your studying in during all of that. Now is probably not the time for a cut. I've mentioned this before, but a cutting phase is a stressor to your body. And if you try to add that extra stress on top of everything else you currently have going on, you are just adding fuel to that fire. And honestly, for no reason at all. Because if you are chronically stressed due to just the phase of life that you're in right now, you're really not going to see results from your cut because your body doesn't care at all about losing body fat when it's constantly just in a state of freaking out. So, if you are in a high stress, low energy stage of your life at the moment, you're gonna wanna hold off on that cut. Maybe just work on maintaining where you're at right now until you can get your cortisol levels in check. Because giving yourself less food does nothing to help that stress or your low energy. You should also not be going into a cut unless you are ready and willing to change your lifestyle and be adherent to the protocols that are required. Everything I talk about is all about sustainability. And I'm sorry, but if you're not willing to change your lifestyle, you're not going to be able to keep the results of your cut because losing fat is easy, guys. It's really not that hard to do. The hard part is keeping those results and sustaining it. And the way you sustain your results, one, by not doing anything crazy to get them in the first place, and two, changing your lifestyle to support your health, your fitness, and your goals better. This doesn't mean it has to now be your entire life, like, not at all. But you adopting a more active lifestyle and moving your body outside of the gym matters. You drinking enough water and prioritizing your sleep, your rest, your stress levels matters. You changing the way that you eat to include a lot more whole foods and protein and change the habits you have around food and the way that you view it matters. And if you're not ready and you're unwilling to change your lifestyle, you are not ready for a cut. Because again, it's not going to matter what results you do get because you're not going to be able to keep them at that point. So it just needs to be accepted that you are making a lifestyle change at that point. And that doesn't mean that you have to change everything overnight, but you need to be okay with that fact. And with the fact that you're going to have to put in the work every day to adopt it as your new lifestyle. If you fall into any of those categories, now is not the right time for a cut. That's okay. That's not to say that there's never going to be a right time. Your time will come if you take care of what needs to be taken care of first. Again, I know no one wants to hear this. I didn't want to hear it. I was right there along with you. But if you want sustainability in this journey, you want true change, real lifelong change, this is what has to happen. I don't make the rules. Please don't come for me. I'm just the messenger. You have to earn the right to diet. And if you decide to ignore that and proceed with the dieting phase, even though you're not quite ready for it, there are always going to be consequences to that. So let's do this the right way so that we can see the results and the true change that we want. And if you're still feeling a little bit lost, a little bit confused about all of this, and you just aren't sure if now is the right time for you to enter a cut, or you don't know how to heal your internal health, I am taking on clients right now for one-on-one online coaching, but I have limited spots open for the remainder of 2024. So if you're even on the fence about it because you've been trying to do all of this alone and you find that nothing is working for you no matter what you do, please reach out to me on Instagram, send me a DM, let's have a chat. I would love to help in any way that I can. But I will leave you all with this. Prioritize your internal health first, get everything working the way it should be, and when it is time for you to cut, you're going to have phenomenal results.